Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Today on Milanese Math, we're going to be talking about order of operations. And as always, if you want to follow along with this worksheet, you can find it at the first link in the description below. Okay, so the order of operations just gives us a way to remember how to do a math problem, the order in which we're supposed to do the mathematical operations. And a lot of times your teacher will use a very common mnemonic device, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." And that is supposed to help you remember the order of operations. So PEMDAS. P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponents, M and D, multiply and divide, A and S, add and subtract. And sometimes you'll actually see it written like this, horizontally, and sometimes they'll even break it up like this. And the reason is because when you do a math problem, you're supposed to flow left to right. And so you do any of the parentheses in the problem first. So you scan left to right, doing any of the parentheses. Then you scan through again, left to right, doing any of the exponents. Then you scan through again, doing any of the multiplication or division, just in the order that they come, left to right. And then you finish up with any addition or subtraction left to right. So let's try to use the order of operations, or this mnemonic device, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," to evaluate a few of these questions. So number one says 5 plus 3 minus 2 plus 8. Now, what I like to do is just quickly scan through and see what I'm dealing with, see what mathematical operations are involved. I'll check through and see if there's any parentheses. This one doesn't have it. It also doesn't have any exponents. It doesn't have any multiplication or division. All it has is addition and subtraction. And since that's in the last category, the A and the S go together, all you have to do is just do this problem left to right. So I'm going to use a little bit of mental math. If your teacher is okay with it, I guess you could use a calculator. But as I move left to right, I've got 5 plus 3 is 8. So this much of it is 8. And then when I subtract 2, that gives me 6, and then 6 plus 8 is 14. So I know that my final answer is 14. There wasn't anything very fancy with that one. I literally just moved left to right because the only operations were addition and subtraction. But look at one like number 2. It looks like I've got some multiplication, some subtraction, and some division. So this is a good example of where it's going to be important to remember what order to do these in. So if I look at my PEMDAS, or my "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," it's going to tell me to take care of the multiplication and division first. So as I move left to right, the very first thing I have to settle is this 4 times 10. Before I do anything else, that's the first multiplication that I get to. That much of it is going to be a 40. Now, I don't want to do anything with that subtraction yet because I have to first do the division. Remember, multiplication and division is going to come before subtraction. So what about the 18 divided by 9? Well, that much is 2. So really what this problem can simplify to is 40 subtract 2. Well, that's 38. Now, if you weren't using the order of operations and you just did everything left to right, you wouldn't get the right answer. So that's why we're practicing this, because if you don't get the hang of this, it kind of makes everything else you do in the rest of your math classes really, really difficult, because you're not going to be getting the right answer. Okay, so let's look at number 3. Looks like I have some subtraction, some multiplication, and division. So again, my brain kind of goes off and says, wait a minute, I got to take care of that multiply and divide before I do the subtraction, just because of PEMDAS. Okay, so the first thing, and I'm going to be moving left to right. So the first multiplication or division that I come to is this part right here. Now, 5 times 10 is 50. And if you want, you could go ahead and write that down and keep simplifying. But if it's not too much, I'm just going to do all of this kind of mentally in my head. So 5 times 10 is 50. And 50 divided by 2 is 25. So this much of the equation is going to simplify to 25. Well, what about the rest of the equation? Well, now I can handle that subtraction now that I've done the multiplication and division. So really, this is kind of like saying 100 subtract 25, and that is 75. So before these get too complicated, let's just pause right there. I'm going to have you do numbers 4, 5, and 6, and then we'll pick up from there on number 7. So, assuming you've had a chance to pause it and try those, let's take a look at ones that get a little bit more involved, like number 7. So as I scan through there, I see addition and I see division. But as you'll notice, I guess back up a second, between addition and division, you would normally have to do the division first, except in this case, because that addition problem is within a set of parentheses. And if we talk about PEMDAS, the very first letter, P, says that if there's anything inside the parentheses, you need to take care of it first. So even though it's an addition problem, we have to jump it to the front of the line because it's inside a set of parentheses. So I'm going to handle that part first, and the 2 plus 12 is 14. So really what this simplifies to is 14 divided by 7, which of course is 2. So that's just an example of how we have to handle one of these types of equations when we have some parentheses. Remember, that'll always jump it to the front of the line. You'll have to do whatever's inside the parentheses. Good example here is number 8. It says 3 times the quantity 6 minus 4 times 4. Again, if you've been practicing these, you think, okay, well, multiplication comes before subtraction, unless, like this one, it happens to be inside the parentheses. So I have to go ahead and quickly take 6 minus 4, which is 2. I've got to do that first because it's in parentheses. Then let's just kind of fill in the rest of this. I've got 3 times 2 and then times 4. This is just all multiplication, so now I can just flow left to right. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24. So the final answer here should be 24. Okay, what about one like number 9? I see some addition, some multiplication, and some subtraction, but I have a couple other grouping symbols in there that we're not used to seeing. I definitely see the parentheses, like where the 10 minus 6 is, but then it looks like that whole group is in brackets. And so those are just another set of grouping symbols, and if you have multiple grouping symbols, you work from the outside in. So let me kind of show you what I mean by that. If I've got 5 plus 7 times 10 minus 6, the first thing I want to do is, I guess I should say, you're going to really start on the inside and see if there's anything on the inside, which in this case, there's those parentheses, the 10 minus 6. Let's just take care of that before we do anything else. So 10 minus 6 is 4. So really what this problem is saying is 5 plus whatever 7 times 4 is. And then those brackets, you can really just treat like another set of parentheses. So 7 times 4 is 28. So really what we have is 5 plus 28. Okay. And of course, 5 plus 28 is 33. Okay. Let's try another one. This is a tricky one. How about number 10? This always gets students mixed up. Because if you look at that, you think, okay, well, there's some addition on the top of this fraction, and there is some division on the bottom of the fraction. I like to call these invisible parentheses problems because technically that numerator, the 15 plus 7, needs to be taken as its own group. Technically, there's grouping symbols around that. You don't see them, it's implied that they're there. You just have to know as a math student that when you see that, there's really a set of parentheses around that. And the same thing on the bottom in the denominator. There's a set of parentheses around the 44 divided by 4. Who cares? Why does that matter? Well, it matters because according to our order of operations, anything that's in a set of parentheses, we need to do that first. So what is 15 plus 7? Well, it's 22. So the numerator is really 22. What would the denominator simplify to? 44 divided by 4 is 11. So now this turns into a really simple fraction or a division problem. 22 divided by 11 is 2. So if you see something like that where there's, like, for example, addition or division going on in the numerator or the denominator, you have to kind of settle that first before you actually do the division. Okay, how about one like number 11? Finally, we have one with some exponents, okay? So we've got the quantity 9 minus 6 squared, or to the second power, times 2. So according to our order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, P parentheses, anything going on inside of the parentheses, got to take care of it first. So in this case, we have a 9 minus 6. We have to do that first since it's inside the parentheses. So really, this is just 9 minus 6 is 3. So it's really like saying 3 squared times 2. Okay, well, what would we do next? Well, according to the order of operations, after parentheses comes exponents. And I see an exponent on that 3. So that's like saying 3 squared, which is 9. So really, this just turns into 9 times 2, which of course is 18. Okay, so that was a little crash course in the order of operations. You've got a few more questions to try there on your own. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if it was, consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.